Well, good morning. To add my words of thanks to those that have already spoken, thank you for being here, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to celebrate Catholic education. This is truly a life-giving event. And in addition to those we've already thanked, I'd like to also thank the students that are here today. Maybe you saw them. Some of our high schools have sent students here as ambassadors. We've had young people singing songs. I think it's so important that the students themselves be present at our event because they are the center and core of our mission. So thanks to all of those students and faculty members that have come here today for this wonderful event. It is an honor to be here. It is an honor to be the superintendent of the Archdiocese of Chicago. I started here at the beginning of October and came here because Chicago really is the hotspot for Catholic education in our country. Not only are we the largest Catholic school system in the country, but this place has a wonderful reputation for excellence and vibrancy of Catholic schools. And so when this position came open, I couldn't resist pursuing it, even though I was comfortable and happy and felt that the schools were doing well in Cincinnati. So I'm very honored to be the superintendent here in the Archdiocese of Chicago. We are celebrating this breakfast on the eve of Catholic Schools Week, and as I think Father Dennis said, each year Catholic schools across our country come together to celebrate the excellence and success of our Catholic schools. I'm frequently asked why we celebrate during this time of the year. This seems like an odd time of year to celebrate Catholic schools. We're in the darkest and coldest time of the year. We're in a time period where the weather frequently interferes with whether our schools can open on time. The fun holidays of the fall semester, Christmas and Thanksgiving, Halloween, etc., are behind us. And perhaps most significantly, I think most people are not thinking about schools during this time of year, but rather that other important American institution, the Super Bowl. But the real reason for the timing of Catholic Schools Week is because we kick off the recruiting season in our elementary schools during this week. So we're reaching out to new families in our Catholic schools. But the timing of Catholic schools is also providential because it's scheduled between two important American holidays. Maybe not as prestigious as Thanksgiving or as well known, but still two very important U.S. holidays. In mid-January, we celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose message of equality and justice centrally resonates with our Catholic values. And in mid-February, we celebrate our presidents, particularly Presidents Washington and Lincoln. And each of these great men represent a legacy of freedom, hope, and optimism. Catholic Schools Week therefore straddles these important holidays where we celebrate giants of America's past, exemplars of our country's freedom. And so this morning I'd like to reflect for just a few minutes on this notion of liberty and freedom. Catholic schools foster liberty. There is a liberty of Catholic education. Our schools epitomize the American values of freedom, self-actualization, and the common good. And this liberty applies not only to the students that we serve, but to families, communities, and ultimately our nation. Catholic schools are America, so it's fitting that we recognize them in a special way during this time of the year. So this notion of liberty in Catholic education is perhaps most profoundly noticeable for the children that we serve. We all know that knowledge is liberating. This adage of teaching a man to fish, which we hear so often, is absolutely true. Through conveying knowledge and skills, we prepare children to confidently face the challenges that lie ahead. And Catholic schools have a tremendous record of teaching knowledge. You've seen the statistics. Our schools consistently outpace public and charter school counterparts in any academic measure, be they standardized test scores, college entrance and retention rates, attendance rates, etc. Indeed, it's been somewhat amusing, even in my comparatively short time as a Catholic educator, to see how the public and charter schools have appropriated strategies that we've been using in Catholic education for decades. The concepts of differentiating instruction, assessing student growth, building a values-based culture, and others all have their origins within Catholic schools. In fact, the Catholic Church essentially established the K-12 educational model. We invented the modern university. Catholic schools existed in the United States before it was the United States, predating the first public schools here. And while our academic accomplishments are obvious, the secret to our success emerges not in how we teach math and reading and science and social studies. Our success emerges from our commitment to forming the whole child, particularly in how we shape our children spiritually. So we do have children that learn about the arts. We do have children that learn about the humanities. We do shape them emotionally and physically and socially. But most importantly, we shape them spiritually. Christ is at the center of every Catholic school. The formation of our children in gospel values is our most important task. It is the reason that we exist. And so the true liberty of a Catholic education resides in how we lead each child to recognize, know, and accept their unique call from God. This is enormously liberating. We are here for a particular purpose, to transform the world around us, to spread the hope of Jesus Christ. And our children embody this hope. They emerge from our schools ready to positively change a world that desperately needs them, to liberate the world from despair. Our children spread the liberty of Christ even as they themselves are liberated. Now, the liberty of Catholic education doesn't just impact students, but their families as well. We know that true liberating education for children cannot come from a school alone. Education only works when parents and schools are in alliance, working in close partnership on behalf of children. I've had a chance to now be in over 65 Catholic schools in the Archdiocese. I've got still a lot left to go. And have been in hundreds of Catholic schools in other dioceses. And as I speak to families about why they chose Catholic education, I hear about the academics. I hear about Catholic values. I hear about arts and athletics and activities. But one comment that keeps coming back to me over and over about why families choose Catholic schools is this notion of community. Children are welcomed and valued and validated in our schools, and their families are welcomed as well. Parents and guardians are their children's primary educators. And as a father of 4, I know how hard parenting can be. All parents, regardless of the background, need help, and our schools are ready to provide that help. We uphold parents in their role as primary educators. We embrace parents just as we embrace their children. And one of the wonderful hallmarks about Catholic education, and you know this, is that we are present for all populations. In the Archdiocese of Chicago, our 230 Catholic schools serve all types of families, no matter their race, their creed, their economic background. We serve our students not because they're necessarily Catholic, but because we are. And this diversity is an enormous strength. We reflect the people of Chicago, the diversity of Chicago. And as we serve this diversity in populations, we know that we have a special commitment to serving the poor and underprivileged. These are families that are coping with the daily grinding realities of poverty, violence, racism, and malnutrition. Education is the liberating avenue for these families, the best way to break the cycle of poverty and rise up economically. Yet this poverty is perpetuated by underperforming local schools and a lack of quality educational opportunities. Our schools enter in and represent hope. And our success is perhaps most stark when applied to the urban poor. Do you realize that while graduation rates in most large city public school districts struggle to reach 60%, our urban Catholic high schools graduate over 98% of our students. 19 out of 20 graduates in the Archdiocese of Chicago enter college. Our graduating class last year, the class of 2015, generated almost $200 million in college scholarships, the majority awarded to students from lower and middle income tax brackets. Our commitment to serving the poor is sincere and will remain. Yet the economics of serving the poor in Catholic schools is difficult. It takes money to provide a good quality Catholic education, and we know that families in poverty can't automatically afford the cost of our tuition. And so we rely heavily upon the generosity of those who support our Catholic schools, who give of their own resources to serve our families. This generosity is perhaps best exemplified by the Big Shoulders Fund, which is present today, which alone dedicates over $18 million per year to our urban Catholic schools, funding scholarships and an array of academic and leadership programs. And each school has an array of donors that support local families through local tuition assistance funds. We're building in the Archdiocese a robust scholarship fund, founded a couple of years ago and growing through the campaign proceeds of To Teach Who Christ Is. And so here's a wonderful secret about Catholic education. Our schools not only impact students and families, but those that support them as well. Donors, such as those that contribute to Big Shoulders, do so because they've witnessed the transformative value of our schools. They know they're having a real and lasting impact upon the lives of our children. They receive that liberating knowledge that their own gifts are making a genuine difference. This generosity is foundational, but it's not enough. Many of our schools continue to face intense financial and demographic pressures. And so, like the Archbishop said, I also am heartened by the movement towards a tax credit program in the state of Illinois. And I urge you to learn more and support the Illinois Kids Campaign. If passed, this effort would enable families from lower and middle income brackets to better attend our schools. So I moved here from Ohio a few months ago, which supported a wonderful array of state-funded programs for students in private schools. And these programs made Ohio a stronger and more prosperous state. Not only did our schools benefit, but our public schools improved as well. The rising tide did lift all boats. Ohio was able to balance its state budget and attract new business partners in part through the economic and educational advantages generated through true school choice. Tax credits in Illinois would be a game changer for us. This effort currently enjoys bipartisan support as local legislators realize the justice of fair and sincere school choice. Tax credits would be an important mechanism for liberty. And so finally, Catholic schools represent a force of liberty for entire communities. Schools bring vibrancy to the parish, drawing young families and children, and the pastors in here know that. Schools also benefit the common good of neighborhoods and communities. Last year, the University of Notre Dame issued a report detailing how poverty and crime rates increase in a neighborhood when a Catholic school closes. And indeed, the very buildings in neighborhoods crumble when the Catholic school disappears. Many of this report's case studies were drawn from neighborhoods here in Chicago. And earlier in my career, I had the opportunity to reopen a previously closed inner-city Catholic elementary school in the urban core of Memphis, Tennessee. And it was so gratifying to see in time how the school became an anchor to that inner-city neighborhood. Not just a place where children were educated, but where families were welcomed and where the entire community was served by the resources of our schools. Our schools are a liberating force for neighborhoods and communities. And on a national scale, many studies have detailed how Catholic school graduates better society. Our graduates are more likely to vote, participate in community service, attend church, and support charitable causes. Catholic school graduates can be found in leadership positions in business, government, and nonprofit fields. Our current vice president is Catholic. Our former and current speakers of the House are Catholic. 5 of the 9 Supreme Court justices are Catholic. And the Catholic faith is represented more than any other religious denomination in the U.S. Congress. The majority of these important public figures themselves attended Catholic schools. And so Catholic schools have been a constant and dynamic force for liberty in this country since before its founding. And so as we celebrate Catholic Schools Week this year, let us be reminded of the indelible impact our schools have had on millions of students, parents, graduates, and communities big and small. No one educates more people than the Catholic Church, and nobody does it better. And so may this vital institution of Catholic schools, through our own prayers and support, continue to prosper. Thank you and God bless.